Hello, my loves. Hello, surprise. I'm back again. I am so happy to be back. I'm just going to take a moment and share this into my group so that they know that I am live. I know it's been a little bit of crickets on my end. So let me just share this. If you are catching the replay, hashtag it replay. Let me know where you're watching from. It always fascinates me where everybody is. And give me a like or a share, pass on the message, because this is going to be a good one. It's going to be a good live. I wanted to come on today and share some of what I learned in my time away. Because as you guys know, I took a break. I was very honest with everyone and told everybody that I was out of alignment. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit because I don't think it's talked about quite enough. PA, hello. I don't think it's talked about quite enough. I think there's a lot of influencers, spiritual teachers, light workers, whatever you want to call them. We have like a billion names, right? The ego loves to give us identity. Whatever you call us, there's not a lot of people who are transparent, who actually are honest with their communities and share themselves. And this was something I was only going to share with the Portal of Potential members, but I decided that it needed to be big and it needed to be public. Hi, Shelly. Hi, Salim. Good morning. I'm happy to be back again. I miss talking to you guys. I love having just conversation. One of my favorite things is for people to ask me questions that invoke deep thought or deep contemplation or channeling of information that I didn't even know that gets to come through me. So it's super, super exciting. Hi, Sam. Australia. I love Australia. One of these days, I'm going to get to Australia and New Zealand, two places that I've always wanted to go. So I wasn't supposed to be here today. I had actually had plans. And so at 6:00 this morning, I'm in full makeup, ready to go, and plans shifted. So here I am. So I thought I would spend a little bit of time with you guys and just talk about my time away. So as you guys know, I don't even know what day it was. I don't even know when it was last week. I really don't pay attention to clock time very much anymore. I kind of lose it. As we master being present, we kind of forget. Hi, Julie. I never see you on live. Hi, love. Another Australian in the house. Woohoo. Shelly says, missed you so much. I always look forward to your amazing content. Thank you for that. So I wrote a post not that long ago and said, hey guys, I'm out of alignment and I need to step away and do my work, the same work that I ask you guys all to do, and really look at what's blocking me, what's causing me to stay in this discomfort and this chaos that was happening. And while this is an up level, and I've been talking about that for months, right, that I am in a really big period of transcendence is probably a better way of saying it versus up level. I really kind of don't like that word, but I've been in a huge period of transcendence because not only is this a huge period of transcendence for all of us because we are in the shift, right? So we've been talking about the shift or the event or whatever you want to label it for years, some way beyond me even. And we are literally in the shift right now. So every single person, whether you want to call yourself a star or an extra or a player or non-player, whatever you want to call it, you are in the shift. So everybody is going through some type of shifting in their life. Whether they're conscious of it or not is where you're going to know, right? It's your awareness, your level of awareness. But for me personally, and for those of you who are into human design, this is a year where I shift into a new what's the right word I'm looking for? A new incarnation cross. I'm stepping into a new cycle of my life. And honestly, this really is the 7 year. When I turned 42, this will be the 7th year. So this year is kind of leading into my year of discovery, but I've always kind of been somebody who's way ahead of themselves. It's a gift and a curse all at the same time, like most things, right? And so I've been feeling this shift of this incarnation cross change for about 2 years. So here I am, at the tail end of it. And when we're at the tail end of something, it's when it's the most intense. It's when you're at the bottom of the barrel, you're scraping the tar, the stickiness. And sometimes we get caught up in it. We just get caught up in it. And this has been going on for quite a while, but it really started to get a bit chaotic and heavy in the last month or so. With everything there has been so much, you guys, so much. Feel free to share this out because this is going to be huge ahas for so many, at least it is for me. So I just want to share. And if it awakens something in you or someone else, that's what we're all here to do, right? It's just to pay that light forward, shine it forward. But I want to share what I learned in this short time away. For any of you guys who've been following me or who know me personally, you guys know that I transcend things very quickly. Once I become aware of that in which I was not aware of before, everything aligns and the shift happens very quickly. If I let go, okay? If I let go. And that was the issue. So for the past, before I get into that, I want to just talk about the fact that I stepped away. And what that meant, because I feel like a lot of times people who consider themselves an influencer or someone who's out there shining their light in the world, really is all it is. They are afraid to show the muck. They're afraid to show the shadow. They're afraid to show when they're in it and when they're out of alignment and when they feel like, you know what, I'm not being the best role model. I'm not being the change right now. I'm not being the best influencer. And so it's out of integrity for me to continue to come on and speak and teach and share from a place of one space when the undercurrent is something completely different, right? It's going in two different directions. And so it's a cross of signals. And so, the more time I spent not listening to that, because I felt on a egoic level, I felt like I was doing it well. And in a lot of aspects I was. I don't want to focus on just the negative. On a lot of ways I was doing the work. I was using the soul purification process, which contains the 4 frequencies. I was doing exactly what I teach in many areas of my life. I was going with the flow. I was letting go. I was rolling with it. I was responding and not reacting to many things in my life. But there was probably 2 areas of my life that I was not applying my own teachings to. And I was very much attached and very much still suffering. And that was the undercurrent that was running. And remember, we only attract who we are. And who we are is our state of being. And that state of being is the undercurrent that's always running. And this is why it's so powerful to be super aware and to be present in the now moment, which means you're not in the past and you're not in the future. You are here and what's real and what's right in front of you. And when you are in that space, when those fears creep in, you're able to recognize that it is just that false evidence appearing real. It's not real. It's anything that's in the future or in the past is not real. It's not. The only thing that is real is what's happening in the now moment always. So these are just other now moments that were stamped by time or by anticipation. And we're investing too much time in those areas of our life. And that's what I was doing. And while I feel safe and have worked diligently and courageously on finding safety within me, we are never perfect. We are always practicing. And that is something that a lot of private mentor students, it's one of the first things I usually tell private mentor students, especially those who are new to this, because they think that once they learn the tool and apply the tool the one time, it's never going to happen again. And then when it happens again, they're like, I thought I healed this. Like, why is this here again? Why am I triggered again? And it's like, it's an onion. And this is a soul evolution. And through the evolution, that means we got to peel back the layers one at a time. Because we cannot, as physical humans, the physical vessel is not designed to let go all at one time. It would be such a massive shift, it would short circuit the brain. And so it's really important that we understand that we are always practicing. Ascension is a practice. Letting go is a practice. Our tools are a practice. And the more we master those tools and the more we stay present, the more easily and gracefully and compassionately we move through obstacles and challenges that come forward. So I was in that state of being, of this undercurrent that was running in two areas of my life that I wasn't willing to look at, or I was looking at, but I really was avoiding it. I was really trying to distract myself from it, because at that time, I now know why, but then I didn't know why. I just could not let go. I couldn't let go. And to me, that means I was out of alignment. And it completely dried up my money line, completely, 100% dried up my money line, because that was what was going to get my attention. I don't have a relationship for it to be reflected back to me. All I have is my cat, or my clients, and they had to get my attention somehow. Remember, everything is but a mirror, and it's going to show you. And so it's happening for you. And so it got my attention, and I thought, okay, I'm going to roll with this. I'm going to roll with this. And I did really well at not being in fear of not having any money, and really facing all the consequences that come with that, especially when I haven't had that problem in quite some time. But when it wasn't getting better, and when other areas of my life started to collapse upon themselves and I started to get hit from all directions, I said, something's got to change. I'm definitely 100% out of alignment, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm any different. And I'm going to be honest, because I had that awareness, and I said, this is my opportunity to show people that it is perfectly okay to say, hey, I got to step away. I got to do my work, and I can't be distracted by anything else. I can't feel the pressure of needing to show up for someone when I need to show up for myself. And that means everything else had to take a back seat. And that's what I did. So I want to talk about what I learned during the short time away, because it really wasn't very long, because I think it will be very helpful for everybody. So I have to be conscious and aware of how I speak this, because the other people involved, it's their, I want to be mindful and graceful, gracious, to care about their feelings as well. So many of you guys know that last year I left my husband, and I moved out onto my own after being with him for 8 years, in a state that I'm not from, right? I'm from San Diego, and I'm in North Carolina. And I don't have physical people here in this community that I live in that I can lean on, that I can go do things with. It's just not something that I have been able to successfully develop. I know people, but we're not friends in that level. Okay. So the only person that I could count on or know would be there was my husband. in our relationship, and I want to start off by saying I am super grateful for this relationship, even though it did not work out and what I'm about to share, because it really helped me become who I am. So this is not a projection or a blame or anything on him. I'm super grateful because he was a beautiful mirror and really helped me come into self-love for myself. And he really helped me in his reflection, helped me find safety in me through all the terrible things that I went through during our time, because our marriage was nothing but grief. I lost two of the most important people in the whole world to me during that time. And during that time, I missed every red flag. Before I even moved here, I missed all the red flags. And I'll say I didn't miss them. I ignored them. I just ignored them. And that was 8 years ago. So it was a different person then. But what I've realized is during this, since I've left, and even before I actually left him, I actually wanted to leave my husband in 2017. And I didn't, because I was afraid. I was afraid of being on my own. I was afraid of not having anybody here. I don't have family. I didn't have friends. I was afraid of isolation. That is an ancestral fear that is deep in my bones. You guys know I talk about how our bones are the dry ingredients and they hold every piece of information from all time and space. Our auric field is our Akashic record. Everything inside of us is there. And sometimes when the sacral opens and those emotional waters begin to flow from our ancestrals through triggers and traumas, it begins to water and bring life to those energies from other time periods, right? Because we're having an opportunity to heal them. Nothing comes up unless you're ready for it. And I was ready for it, but I didn't believe enough in myself in 2017. I wasn't as strong as I am now emotionally. I didn't have the emotional intelligence that I do now. And so I stayed in my fear and I didn't leave. I stayed because I thought I was still running under the generational programming that you don't get divorced, even though this was my third marriage, right? You make it work. I did all of those things. So once I left, I really struggled to let go. And even though I did all of this work and I faced all of these emotions and I sat with my emotions and I did all the work that I talk about, I didn't go very deep. And even when I did, it was so much suffering because I was in so much resistance and I was so attached. And I just could not figure out why I was so attached. Why can't I let this go? Why can't I let this go? Why can't I move on? Why can't I be free? And that relationship is the area of my life that I was avoiding. That relationship and not letting go was why my money line dried up, was why everything else was starting to domino and collapse around me, because I could not let it go. I was being passive aggressive towards him. I was really still trying to control, because while he's a wonderful person, he is very unaware. He's very unaware. He doesn't really think for himself a whole lot, and that's just where he is, and that's okay. That's perfect for him. But because I had the trauma and conditioning in my inner child that I had to take care of everyone, and I had to make everyone else aware, and I had to do everything and be everything for everyone in order for me to be safe, in order for me to feel safe, I continued to try to control and micromanage and do all of those things, even from my house, and try to make him aware of the things that he wasn't aware of. And I continued to do this. And every time I did it, I will say I knew what I was doing. I was observing myself the whole time, even though I was doing actions that were very ego-based. I was very aware, and I always would say to myself, God, he brings out the worst in me. He brings out the worst in me. And I probably brought out the worst in him. And it was because it was this unconscious compulsion, this reaction to just spout out and just say whatever it is, like, wake up. This is what it is. This is what it is. Like, it was not something that he was aware of. And so I felt this compulsion to constantly make him aware of that in which he was not aware of. And it used to drive me insane because I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And yet I kept doing it and I kept doing it and I kept doing it. And so when I stepped away, I literally surrendered in a way that I had never surrendered before. And not because I consciously wanted to surrender. It was because I was so tired of the suffering. I was so tired of the fighting. I was so tired of the resistance. I was so tired of the energy that I was in. It was draining me again. It was draining the joy out of my life. And I just was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And sometimes that's where we have to get to. Sometimes that is the point of no return, right? Sometimes that's why we have to go that far and do the things that we do, even though we know on a super conscious level that it's not good for us, that we're not in alignment. So I surrendered and I surrendered and I surrendered and I said, why can't I let this go? Why can't I let him go? I don't want to be back with him. Our relationship has run its course. We've learned all we can learn from each other. I have beyond outgrown him and he is not growing. So why am I holding on? This is pretty mind-blowing. And I actually already kind of shared a little bit about it in my post earlier about grief, because this is grief. This is grief. One of the things that I do is when I am in a relationship, when I am in my business, when I'm working with a client, when I'm with my children, I go all in. But the all in that I was doing was giving all of myself to that person, place, or thing. And isn't that something that we've kind of all been taught, right? Go all in, give everything you have. And that's what I did in this relationship. So we have 4 major resources, right? We have time, we have energy or life force, we have money, and we have value or wisdom. These are the only 4 resources that we have. And so as I've talked about, and how in the future we won't have money, we have other resources that we will use as a means of value and exchange. In this particular relationship, I gave everything I had of all 4. I gave every ounce of money I had. I gave every ounce of time I had. I gave all of my life force energy to this relationship. And I definitely put a lot of value and wisdom. And when I left in severe adrenal fatigue and with an abundance of lactic acid in my body. And by the way, I will be doing soon a health series on healing, how I am healing myself and how I have healed myself from actual chronic illness, by the way. So look forward to that. But I left in 2020 in straight up severe adrenal fatigue. And when you have severe adrenal fatigue, it is a challenge to get out of bed because you literally, and with the lactic acid. So as my bones were releasing lactic acid, it literally felt like I was in a car accident the day before. You know how if you've ever been in a car accident, every bone in your body just is sore. It's like everything was rattled. I would wake up and feel that way. I had no inspiration. I had no life force energy. And it wasn't depression. It was, I just have zero energy. I have zero life force in me. And so it was a struggle to get out of bed. It would take me hours to get out of bed. I couldn't work out. I had to change my diet again. So everything had to shift. I literally left completely depleted. I left my home. I gave him the home, the furniture that was in it. I left with nothing. I started over with nothing. I gave it all. And so as I surrendered, asking that question over and over again, what came through was so profound. The expectation was a return on my investment. And with ending the marriage and watching him move on with another person in my home, right? Because it still felt mine and my name's still on it. With the furniture I picked and the house that I designed and my yard and all the things that reminded me of my dad, I was looking at it as I upgraded his life and I downgraded mine. That's how I was looking at it. I was looking at it like I gave all of myself away. You see, I was looking for a return on my investment, and my return on my investment and my expectation was that our life should be different, that this should have worked out, that I put too much into this to walk away. I really want you guys to hear me when I'm saying this, because we do this in many different places in our life. But here's the kicker. And I'm going to get emotional. Why I was struggling to let go is because it was ego death. My ego was super invested in who I was with him and what I had created with my time, with my energy, with my money, and how much value I put into it. Not just him, but that home and the life and what I gave up to have it, and how ungrateful he was in my eyes. That doesn't mean that's his truth. And watching him move on and live a great life that I gave him created this utter resentment inside of me. Utter resentment. Not easy to admit, but I'm human, and you guys have all been there, so don't say you haven't. I had so much rage for him. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted him to hurt, which meant I was still hurting. I had to come to the realization that what I was really grieving was me, was who I thought I was supposed to be, to what I thought my life was going to look like, because I had invested so much of myself in him and that life that I didn't know who I was. Not in the avenue of who I am in relationship, who I am without a relationship. Who I am in business is easy. Stepping or allowing my higher self to speak through me and allowing my guides to speak through me and allowing myself to live in the super conscious when I'm channeling and I'm on here. It's my favorite thing because it's who I truly am. And so when I do this, like when I'm talking to you guys, when I'm sharing, when I'm teaching in courses, when I'm doing these live conversations, I feel alive. I feel real. I feel like this is who I am. And who I was with him is not who I was. But my ego, even though I have a spiritual ego, right? We don't talk about that much either. Even though my ego was very spiritual, my ego was like, you invested all of everything you had, and look what happened. It was worth nothing. It just kept reminding me of how much I failed and how worthless I was because look at all I invested and I got nothing out of it. But that's false. That is the false evidence appearing real. And as I'm at the bottom of my well, scraping up this black sticky shit going, I effing hate you, because that's how it was, I was realizing something. I never wanted to be that person. That's not who I was. I'm spontaneous. I love to travel. I love nature. I love to dance in the rain. I love to color. I love to paint. I love to watch romantic comedies and documentaries. I love to read biographies and personal development books. I love to get lost in deep conversation. I love to contemplate things. I love to be challenged and pushed. I didn't get any of that with him. And it wasn't his job to give it to me. But the thing was, is I lost myself completely in him because I gave all of myself to him. And through this time I've spent away from him, I have realized a lot of things, and I've become self-aware of many things, and I've healed many parts of myself. And I realized that it's how you treat yourself is how you teach others to treat you, right? This is nothing new. I've talked about this before. And how did I treat myself when I was with him? I put everyone and everything first. Their needs came before mine. Always. I took care of everything. I was the husband and the wife. I was the parents. For a majority of our relationship, I was the breadwinner. I was all of those things. I was the support system. And none of that was mirrored back to me. And so I spent about 3/4 of our relationship building resentment, which destroyed my health. So I learned during this time away that what I was really not letting go of was the person who I thought I was supposed to be. I was struggling to let go of my identity because I had invested so much into it. And when I realized that, I was able to sit down and ask myself some very big questions. What did I still hope could be different? What was I still resentful of? If I could go back and do it all over again, what would I change? And in doing that, I realized how much wisdom I actually gained and how much more aware of myself I became because of him. And so I realized that he played the perfect role that he was supposed to play. The other funny part is my higher self kept saying to me, stop tripping over a dollar to get to a dime. And I kept hearing that and I'm thinking, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? And they said, the dime is what you invested into that relationship. And I'm thinking, I know beyond six figures, well beyond six figures of what I invested into that relationship financially. I know how much time and energy. You're telling me that that's only a dime? Yes. Well, what's the dollar? The dollar is your potential. The dollar is your life right now. That if you can stop tripping over the dollar to pick up the dime, you can actually have the dollar, which is what, 10 times, 10x our investment easily? And I was like, whoa. But I was so afraid of letting go of that investment for fear that it would not return, that I couldn't let it go. And this is what they say is us getting in our own way. We get in our own way because we hold on to what we think we should be, what we think we should have, instead of looking at it like that's a drop in the bucket to what I will have, to what I have the potential to have. That I'll look back on that one day and I'll be like, oh, that's like a check I can write every day of the week now. And I thought, okay. So I began to shed that. And I began to shift my energy. And something that I shared in the Portal of Potential that I'll share here is I shifted some things that I was saying and how I was saying them. So I shifted saying the word fear to every time I noticed I had a fear in my brain. So those of you who know the purification process, the four, and know the 4 frequencies because you've worked with me or heard them, whatever. The thing that is so important is the I see you, right? Becoming aware. So the moment I became aware of the fact that there was an undercurrent of fear running, a story, right? An unease in my body and a story that I could hear in my mind, instead of ignoring it or repressing it or being like, whatever, I'm just not going to acknowledge it. That's bypassing. I acknowledged it and I spoke out loud and I said, instead of saying I have a fear of X, Y, and Z, I changed it. And I said, the false evidence appearing real. I spelled it out. The false evidence appearing real is blah, blah, blah. The truth is blah, blah, blah. Every single time. And I've continued to do this. And I will continue to do this because it's my way of reprogramming my neural pathways to say, fear is not effing real. Danger happens in the present moment. And you are very aware when that happens. But fear is all illusion. All illusion. And so every time that comes up, my intention is to say, instead of recognizing I have a fear, is saying the false evidence that's appearing real, to retrain my brain to understand fear is not real. And the other thing that I brought in was, instead of saying I'm afraid of something, is saying I used to be afraid of it, but still acknowledging it. So the fear, the false evidence appearing real was as if on top of that, so once I got past that, my next hump was, if I completely let go of him, there is a chance that he won't be there for me when I need him, right? When people move on in relationships, right? Especially someone like him, someone who is more of the submissive one in the relationship. The other person coming in might end up controlling things and putting their foot down and making life uncomfortable for them if they don't do what they want. And so the false evidence appearing real was that I would then be isolated, right? Which again is what I told you guys is an ancestral fear. It's also my life's purpose in gene case. It's gene key 32. And when the shadow side of that is the fear of isolation, because in indigenous times, or even when you're an animal, a lot of times when you are isolated, it almost always equals death, because safety in numbers, right? It's also a Nordic thing. So for people who are Nordic heritage, right? German, Sweden, all of those things, those are colder countries. So our houses were jam-packed with people, most of which we probably argued with most of the time. Have you ever been around Germans? Hello, we have quite the attitude and anger and fire in our belly. Prayers to Germany, by the way. So we get on each other's nerves, but we still stay together because safety in numbers, and we stay warmer when we're together, right? It's pack mentality. So isolation almost always equals death. So my fear was, I'm going to freaking be isolated. I'm not going to have anybody I can count on in person. Now, I have wonderful friends online that are all over the world. One in particular that you guys all know, who I could count on in a drop of a dime if I needed her. But in the physical, if I was in the hospital or something happened, there was nobody here. And that was the false evidence appearing real, is that I would be isolated. And I had to become okay with that. But when I started to go deeper into that fear of isolation, I really wanted to know what else am I missing here? Because I felt like that was only a piece of it. So I felt on Saturday, I felt like, okay, I feel like today's the day. Today's the day the breakthrough is going to come. So I was very intentional about my day. I went to the sauna. When you go to the sauna, you kind of bring everything to the surface, right? So you can purge. So I went to the sauna. I noticed I was really having a hard time being present. Funny enough, I've been listening to Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now in my sleep, and just kind of letting that material absorb into my brain. And I'm listening to him in this little phone booth. It looks like a phone booth, but it's a sauna. And I'm like, I can't sit still. I'm super fidgety. And I'm like, God, why don't I want to sit still? Like, why can't I just be present with the discomfort? And it's because I had set the intention, like today's going to be the breakthrough. It's going to come up exactly what I need. That is the root of this is going to surface. I know it. It's just coming. I left the sauna and went straight to a very intense breathwork class, 90 minutes of continuous breath in and out from the belly. Goes to this track of music where your breath goes, you go really fast and then you slow it down, you go really fast again. And something that happened the last time I did breath work, and actually happens quite a bit, it happened after surgery and other times, is when I do that, I get tetany. So if you guys have ever had tetany, you'll know what it is. But for those who don't, it's when your body completely locks. Your hands, like, you get all levels. So maybe for some people, only a part of them lock, but my whole body locked very quickly into the breath work. Not last time, I was probably halfway through when the tetany came in, and it wasn't as bad. I was able to pull myself out of it. This time I wasn't. And very quickly I was in it. My whole body was locked. My legs were locked. My hands were up and they were like this, and I couldn't move them. My hands felt like concrete. I could not move my fingers. I could not move my arms. My shoulders locked, my jaw locked. The only thing I could move was my upper lip. And I just began to cry, or try to cry. I couldn't even make the crying face because my face was locked, you guys. And you basically look like you're having a seizure. So your body's locked and you're like, like this. And so when that's happening, there's lactic acid also being released from the bones, right? And I've told you guys I had an abundance of lactic acid from living in a state of fight or flight, which is bracing for impact, for a very long time, most of my marriage. So here I am. The instructor comes over. His head's on, like, he's coming from behind looking at me, and he's talking me through it. He's like, I told him, I said, I'm struggling to release it. I could barely talk. And what releases you and your sympathetic nervous system from a fight or flight is activating the parasympathetic nervous system with oxytocin. And if you are a private client or you are in my membership, I talk a lot about the benefits of oxytocin, which is the I'm in love with you chemical. It literally invokes that feeling of I'm in love with somebody, right? Or I'm in love with myself. And the very best way to invoke oxytocin is through physical touch. And so every day I spend time touching myself very gently, very sensually, loving, connecting with myself. So what he did was he started to connect with me. He placed his arms and hands on me. He was really helping me to feel held. And then he said something that was brilliant. He said, he said, which side is worse? And I said, it's my left side, feminine. He said, I want you to focus all your conscious awareness on your left side. And I want you to instruct your masculine to bring the fear or the trauma front and center that is causing the tetany. And in that moment, my ego's like wanting to cuss him out and being like, I don't even know how to do that. Like it was very painful to be in this. And there's nothing I can do. I have to write it out. Like it's grace through suffering at this point. You have to write it out. There's no breaking the seizure. There's nothing. You just have to write it out. You have to calm your nervous system. And so just him instructing that, even without me, my conscious, my ego going, okay, let's do that. My super conscious kicked in and did it for me. And like a damn freight train, it hit me. I was actually afraid of being present, which is crazy because I'm present all the time. But how often am I 100% present? See, I've spent a good portion of my life being 70% present, 80% present. There are moments when I'm channeling, when there's moments when I'm doing DNA work, that I'm 100% present or even 95% present. But when it happened, it's like everything, it was like a weird flash of like every time in my life that I have been present or had an opportunity to be present and was able to see myself jump out of that present, to disassociate. And not just when there was trauma, right? So I had severe, I don't talk about it a lot, but I had severe abuse as a child. Not just, I had sexual, I had physical, I had mental, I had emotional, I had all the abuses. So when I was present, I was feeling the pain of what was happening. And when I was a child, when things in my life went good, every time things went really good, the shoe would drop as a child in my life. And that continued on as an adult. So it wasn't just not safe for me to be present in a negative situation or what we deem to be negative or abuse or discomfort or a trigger. It was not safe for me to be present in good times either. So I would notice myself laughing, and I was able to see all of this in a flash. You ever talk, people are talking about in a flash of a second, you saw all of this and all of that downloads, and you begin to have realizations that kind of it's like a zip file gets dropped in you, and over time that zip file opens and it starts to show. Well, this is what's been happening since Saturday. So I was able to see that in times when I was having good times in my life, when I was any of my marriages, with my friends, in nature, anytime life was good and I was laughing and enjoying myself, I would catch myself and be like, oh, you don't be happy. Don't be happy. Because if you're happy, the shit's going to hit the fan tomorrow. And life is going to be screwed again. So don't be happy. So I witnessed that my true fear was being 100% here in the now. Because if I'm 100% here in the now, I am not reading every single person. I am not reading my future. I'm not reading their futures. I'm not trying to predict what's about to happen next as a way of creating certainty and security so that I would feel safe. Like, take that shit in. When you're 100% now, you are not reading everyone else around you or the energy around you from a perspective of, I need to know what everyone's thinking and what everyone's about to do so that I can feel safe and I know how to move. And this is something that I teach in my course where I teach you guys how to read energy. But this is what I've done my whole life. And I was telling Tanya when I was at Tanya's house, I was like, that was my training ground for being an amazing energy reader. And the fact that I can read anything. I can read a tree. I can read a vehicle. I can read a person. I can read the planets without knowing astrology, without knowing this or that. I'm an excellent energy reader because I've spent my whole life reading everything as a way to know, can I move? They move, I move. They move, I move. I know what they're going to do, so I can predict. And it's made me a really good psychic because I can read timelines very well because I've watched when I predicted this, did that happen? How did that, it's actually developed my skill. It was a blessing in disguise because it developed me from a very early age. But in order to be 100% now in what's real and what is life now, not perceived life, as Eckhart Tolle talks about, but real life, what's living, breathing now, that means I can't look at the future. And that means I can't play in the past. I had to let it all go. Like all of it. And as that came up and that flash came through, all I got in that moment was I was fear of the present. And so that's all I needed in that moment, was to know that I was afraid of the present, so that I could use my frequencies to create safety, to be present in the moment of the tetany, to be fully aware of my body, what was happening in my body, and that the perceived fear or false evidence appearing real was just that, false, and that I was actually safe, and that I had this very kind man holding me and telling me, "You're okay." And as he walked away, I was still locked in tetany. I was able to start moving my fingers just a little bit. I mean, I was in it for a long time, you guys. Probably the longest time I've ever been in it. And that's why I'm always a huge proponent, and why I'm always telling you guys, and why I always do this in private mentorship, is you have to learn to read your body. We store everything in our body. It's not just about reading your body so you know why you have an upset tummy or why something's happening. It's actually building a bridge of consciousness, building a bridge of trust with your body, so that you can trust that when your body's bringing up this big ass trauma from a past life, from a childhood, that it's your body saying, you are ready to release this density and to allow the light to fill it instead. That's what ascension is. The physical body releasing density and becoming light. And the more you do that, the more sensitive you become to energy, the more you feel the planetary shifts, the more you feel all the bullshit. But it also helps you to not attach to it, right? Because the density is the magnet of attachment. So here I am, just barely starting to move, and I'm just doing the purification process. I'm working through very consciously, still continuing with the breath work. I didn't stop the breath work. I kept going. I slowed it down and doing the work, just using those frequencies. And all of a sudden, it just released. And I was 100% present for the first time in a very long time. And it felt like utter bliss. I didn't give two shits if I was breathing. I didn't care. I didn't care if I was breathing. I didn't care if I was alive or I was dead. I didn't care if I had money. I didn't care if I was homeless. I didn't care if I had a relationship. I didn't care if the person next to me was laughing at me. If everyone was staring at me, I had no cares, no judgment. I was 100% present, and I was in complete and utter bliss. And this energy just flushed through me. Like I had just been wiped clean. It's the only way I can describe it. And this is why this is called the purification process, by the way, because it literally purifies your column of light like that. Sometimes it takes a lot of repetition and then you get the flush, right? But it's, again, practice. We've got to practice. We practice so we can 100% let go. We practice so that we can get to that space. And when it was done and over with, and we all shared, I sobbed in front of everyone. And I had this big emotional release. And the next day, Sunday, I spent all day. I didn't talk to a single soul. Well, actually, that's a lie. My daughter stopped by for a minute. But other than that, I didn't talk to anybody. I just laid on the couch. I watched childhood movies. And I just rested because I woke up feeling like a damn truck hit me again. You know why? Because so much had released. So much had released. And I had to let the body catch up and reorganize and rework and change the pathways. We always think, oh, I had the realization, everything's going to be different. Well, we have a slow motion replay, and that slow motion replay is very small now because I keep telling you guys, time's speeding up. Tomorrow, we have another shift. Tomorrow, it's going to speed up even more, which means the very thing I've been telling you guys, you got to be present. You got to release judgment of what's happening in the world and in yourself. Those are hard things to do. It takes balls and courage. And what I know for sure, I don't need anything. I don't need followers. I don't need money. I don't need people to like me. I don't need people to agree with me. I don't need a relationship. I don't need anything. And this is the first time in my life where I can 100% all of me say I could give two shits less, because I am just here in this moment, living my life, breathing in the air, listening to the birds, smelling the scents, having the most immense gratitude for every experience, for everything I touch, everything I feel, everything I taste. Because it was like a magnification of that awareness that we are here to have a physical experience, and there's nowhere else in the universe that is like Earth. There's nowhere else in the universe that we feel and have physicality in the way that we do here. That's why everything's so intense. And that's why the thing that I've always said is we don't fear anything. We fear what it will feel like. And sometimes we create an addiction to feeling pain because it makes us feel alive, reminds us that we're alive. I also had some shifts and awarenesses in my business and what I'm here to do and what I'm here to teach. And it's not much different than what I already do, but there is going to be some slight shifts. And I am going to be offering some cool new programs and a lot more live things that'll be taught live. And I'm even figuring out how to get back on tour and do more physical things, because I freaking love hugging people and laughing with people and feeling their energy in person. And my energy, for those of you who've had the privilege of doing retreats with me, you know how that's the one thing people always want. They want to be in my energy. Just being in my energy seems to have some weird effect on people. It seems to activate them and make them hyper aware of things and awaken their superpowers. And so that's what people always want when I do those types of live events. And why people love private mentorship, right? So there's a lot of cool things on the horizon, and including my book, which we're so much closer to being done with. And I'm super excited about that just because I've put so much work into it. And it's so funny because on my birthday, I knew I was going through a cosmic reset. And the whole rest of the week, I just had aha after aha after aha. And after Saturday, everything opened up. I got money coming in from all over the place that I was like, where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? Like, everything shifted. Everything shifted because I shifted. Because I took the time and I said, I got to step away and put all of my conscious awareness on WTF is going on inside of me, so that my inner will stop projecting a reality outside of me that I don't like. That's not my truth. But you attract and project your state of being. So if something's not aligned in your life, in business, work, money, relationships, whatever it is, It's never the thing outside of you. It's an undercurrent running inside of you that you're just not listening to. And in order to listen, you have to be in receive mode, which means you have to be in a state of surrender. You have to allow, which means you can't control. So, and you guys have so many comments. So let me put my glasses on and read through some of these and see your guys' insights. Vicky says, this is so my story. Tanya says, it's inevitable. We have to accept the hurt. Yeah. It is hard to let go of the stories. And you know what? It wasn't even really a story. It's a perception of who I thought I was, you know? It's the thing I always say, like, you know, our ego's always rifling through the algorithm of our past, trying to project and predict the future so that it knows where to go, because our human body is the Tesla. It's the self-driving vehicle based upon all the data. Instead of a GPS system of maps, it's using the maps of our ancestors. It's using the maps of our childhood. And so that's why non-player characters can function and look like humans with souls, you know, people who have super consciousness inside of them, because they are running off of predictable programming. Again, the ego is going through the algorithm of the past to predict the future. That's predictable programming. That's what all the AI technology is. It learns as it goes. We think we have to learn as we go. No, that's our ego. We already know everything. We're already perfect as we are. That's the superconscious. That's the soul. Tanya says, my therapist had a good analogy for fear. He said, remember when Alice fell down the rabbit hole? Her fear was an illusion, and the truth of the matter, she was forced to be present and slowed down to see what was right in front of her, to only land on her feet. Stop fearing the bottom of doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, maybe. Rebecca says she learned so much from this live. I had a situation where I went through the locked feeling you described. It's nice to know what it actually was. Oddly, I was instinctively knew to have the person that was present at the time to give me a hug. It took over half an hour to get unlocked. Yeah. Vicky says she has the same thing. Not safe to be happy, not allowed to be happy. Control is hard to let go of for sure. Thank you for all this awareness. Vicky says, I've been noticing you for 3 days now, and now you show up here. Not sure why. Did you owe me money? You're funny. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. That's what has transcended in me in a little over a week, maybe a week and a half. And what I will tell you is, so often I hear people say, I have a job, I have family, I have kids, I have dogs, I have cats, I have this, I have that. They have a lot of excuses as to why they can't do this work. And something that my guides always tell me is the most spiritual thing we can do is be human. And that means that we have to it's not something that we set aside time to do, meaning I'm going to meditate for this hour and that's going to be my time. It's about being present in every activity. It's about slowing down, not going 100 miles a minute, trying to multitask and do 50 things. You can bring your super consciousness into your 3D or dense reality career or job. You can bring that energy. And sometimes people, that's what they're meant to do. They're meant to bring that super conscious awareness and state of being into something else and be the light, be the way of showing it through. So whether you are a busy mom, a single parent, work what we would call a 3D 9-to-5 job, or which really isn't a thing anymore. But you know, whatever your excuse is why you don't have time to do this work or to do it, It's just know that it's an excuse. It's an excuse. And if you use the excuse, I don't have money, you got to look at what you're speaking into reality. You got to look at what you're speaking into reality. You got to change the way you look at things so the way you look at things change. You got to bring your tools and your presence and your awareness and your response or responsibility to take control of your reality back into your hands and be willing to do and make the hard choices. Because an easy life comes from hard choices. So when you have a choice in front of you, ask yourself, is this a hard choice or an easy choice? Is it easy to pick up the Twinkies? Yeah. Is it easy to be lazy? Yeah. Is it hard to get up and work out and meditate and put yourself first? Absolutely. So whatever the hard choice is, that's the road you want to take. That hard choice will lead to an easy life. And the easy choices will lead to a hard life. I made the easy choice for a long time with him. The easy choice was to continue to try to control it instead of let go of it. The hard choice was to let them make mistakes. The hard choice was to watch them fall. To watch my ex and my kids sit in the chaos they created, to sit in their shit. It was like a shirt. Remember, Tanya, if you're on here still, remember that shirt like from years ago that I was going to make? You got to own your shit. To own it, you got to sit in it. So I was trying to prevent all these people in my life from having mistakes and from having pain, because then it would make, in my eyes, it was going to create a mess for me to clean up. It was going to inflict pain to me. So I was actually creating the pain by doing that. If I just let go and said, they have to make this mistake. Remember, you can't have today's awareness without yesterday's mistake. I had to let them have the mistakes. I had to let them screw up. I have to let them sit in their shit. I have to let them learn the hard way so that they would finally have enough courage and strength to take their power back and make a hard choice to make their life better. But because I loved them and because I invested so much of my everything into them, I thought it was my responsibility. Because again, childhood trauma, I was raising babies when I was a baby. I was raising my parents. So no wonder I raised 3 husbands. Because that's what happened. I was his mom. And the other one's moms too. And I've been afraid to get into a relationship. I've been afraid to get into a relationship or even date because I didn't want to repeat this. But now I know with 100% certainty that that won't happen again. It won't happen again. Which we still need to go and make. We do. Like we do. I know this life is an illusion, simulation. So why I feel so much anxiety in a day-to-day life? The same thing I tell in most of these lives. Anxiety is self-obsession. And I know it's kind of hard to hear for people, but we feel anxiety because we feel like everything is about us or our fault or because of us. And really, nothing is about us. It's never about us. That's like number one rule of living a multidimensional life, of living in 5D. Don't take anything personally. It means nothing about you. What someone else does is a projection of them. How you respond or react is a projection of you. Now, if someone's treating you poorly, what does that mirror? Are you treating you poorly? If someone is invading your boundaries, are you invading your own boundaries? But when we have anxiety, it's because we are directing, anxiety is an excessive amount of energy. And the only way we can have an excessive amount of energy is if we're magnetizing it to us. And we magnetize it by believing that these things that are happening are about us. Or if we're in a crowd, you might not feel safe with all those people. So then all those people start directing their energy to you because you're in resistance of what they may do. You don't need medication for anxiety. You need presence, and you need to learn to feel safe inside of you. And you need to know that ain't nothing personal. And that's a hard one. I am not anywhere near a master of that yet, but I'm getting better. I raise people too, and now I just have cats. You don't raise cats. No, they raise you. Cats, man, you do not own a cat. A cat owns you. Always, right? You can own a dog, but a cat owns you. I was my ex-husband's mom. I was in a similar spot and have really worked to where I am now. Good. That's awesome. Oh, so I'm back. I will be coming on live, not every day. I'm not going to do every day again. I'm not going to give all of myself away. I am going to value my energy and my time and my wisdom. And I'm going to reserve a good portion of that for people who want to invest in themselves and for me, honestly, me first. But I will be on here more, a couple times a week, just to chit chat. And like I said, I am going to be sharing probably on my next live. I'm going to start a series on how I healed myself from, spiritual and mental, emotional practices. I'm not going to go super deep into them, but I will talk about them, to some of the supplements over the years that have worked for me. And, that has changed and evolved over the years. So I kind of want to talk about them all, because you might be on something that I used to like, or that used to work for me, then I've had to move on from that. So I want to share all of that, because there is a laundry list of chronic health conditions that people think, oh, you can never heal that, it's lifelong. And that's a bunch of bullshit. The body holds trauma and it holds memory. And when there's trauma and disease in your body, then there's illness. And so and that's why I've been working on my body for 2 years, right? More than that, actually. 2019 is when I started the body work. Body work is the third phase of an awakening, right? The first is the mental, the second is the emotional, and the third is the body. And the body is where we've got the mindset. We know how to work the mindset. We know how to have emotional intelligence and work with our emotions. And now we have to dig into the body, and we need to bring things to the surface. And so this is when we start to really heal those chronic illnesses and those chronic diseases, by really tapping into the root of them, which is always energy. Everything is always energy first, no matter if it's this cup or the vehicle or your hair. Everything is energy first. And so the root of everything is energetic, and it does manifest into form. So we have to work with the root of it, the energy of it. And then we have to also simultaneously work in the physical with workouts and supplements and movements and things like that. So know that is coming. And I'll be sharing that next. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who held space for me and really allowed for me to share vulnerably my transcendence of what I've been working through, and will continue to practice, because the only way to embody it, which means it becomes your new normal, your new automatic program, is to continue to practice it until you don't have to remember to practice it, right? It's just there. It's just how you naturally do things. And that takes work of doing it every day and every moment that you can. So thank you guys all for this. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye.